there have been times over the last year when the Mets' spirits might have been a little bit lying low. Well, there's a lot more reason to smile for Met fans and the Mets organization today as the Mets play the Nationals on a beautiful night in Port St. Lucie, Florida. At Digital Domain Park in Port St. Lucie, the New York Mets play the Washington Nationals. New York Mets spring training on SNY is presented by Citi. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. I'm Gary Cohen. Ron Darling joins me in just a moment as the Mets get set to play the Washington Nationals. You know, yesterday was the Mets' only off day of the spring, and the off day in spring training is typically where a team makes the turn from just going through the motions to really getting ready for the season. Well, yesterday was a turning point for the Mets away from the field as well, with the news of the settlement between Mets ownership and the trustee for Bernie Madoff, that their losses will be capped at $162 million, and it should be a lot less than that. Then came the news that the Mets have been successful in selling limited partnerships, and they've paid off some of their loans as well. And so, as General Manager Sandy Alderson said before the game today, the landscape for the Mets is looking a lot brighter than it was a few days ago.
You know what's good about this? As a player who wore the uniform while the Wilpons, of course, were the owners, it's nice to see that this is behind him. As a former player, watching today's players, they don't have to answer any more of the questions of unwilling blindness, any of the things, litigation, all the things that players don't want to talk about. They really just want to talk about baseball. And I think that's the key, is now the baseball trust, the baseball brains of Alderson and the rest of them now can start to put this in action and hopefully turn the corner. Maybe March 19th someday will be a big date in Mets history.
We'll hear from Sandy Alderson a little later. And for Fred Wilpon and Saul Katz, as much as it was about the money, it was more about clearing their names. And so it's a very happy day for them. As for baseball, today the Mets get their shortstop Ruben Tejada back on the field, and as this team is 16 days from opening day, that's enormous.
Well, it's so important because the Mets have lost so much time to injuries with David Wright, etc., and Tejada to be back in that lineup, not only important for him, but even maybe more important for him and the double play combination of Tejada and Murphy moving forward. They need some time in spring training.
And so Tejada and Murphy will be on the field together. In fact, everybody from the Mets opening day lineup, other than pitcher and David Wright, will be out there for Terry Collins today. Mets and Nats from Port St. Lucie coming up.
A leader
On SNY is brought to you by Citi, by Bud Light, by Toyota. Hurry in, it's Toyota's #1 for everyone sales event, Toyota. And by W.B. Mason for amazingly low prices on office supplies. Who but W.B. Mason? Hey, T-shirt Tuesdays are here. Just $19 gets you a game ticket and a limited edition Mets T-shirt. Log on to Mets.com now and get your T-shirt Tuesday tickets while they last. Here's your Mets pocket schedule. Mets and Nats tonight. Johan Santana pitches in Jupiter against the Cardinals tomorrow. We'll be back with you Thursday when the Mets play the Astros here in Port St. Lucie. And we'll be with you on Pix 11 Saturday afternoon when the Mets take on the Cardinals. 2 weeks from Thursday is opening day at Citi Field. And Terry Collins hopes to have his team headed in the right direction. They've got 9 straight games without a win. Terry, I think, is anxious to get a few wins under their belt as he brings the intensity to spring training and the smiles as well.
We want to protect the house.
Right.
But
Homesick.
Gorgeous day in Port St. Lucie today. Right now about 77 degrees after a brief, and I mean brief, shower produced a nice rainbow. There's your Toyota Nationals starting lineup, and significant who's on the bottom of that lineup. That's Steven Strasburg, who has not been pitching all that well this spring, and he will make his 4th start against the Mets today. You see the Nats lineup missing Adam LaRoche, Ryan Zimmerman, and Michael Morse. LaRoche and Morse a little banged up right now. There you see the few clouds that have cooled things off here in Port St. Lucie. Perfect evening for baseball. It's been a while since the Mets have won an exhibition game, and you know, Terry Collins understands that it's all about individuals in spring training getting themselves ready, but at a certain point you want to win some games.
Well, I was walking past him today, Gary, and I told you, I asked Terry, how you doing? And he waved his hand back and forth, which meant not very good, to tell you the truth. It's kind of wishy-washy right now, so nothing a win can't cure.
That's a 3-11 with 1 tie in spring. There's Davey Johnson getting ready for his first season managing the Nationals after taking over last June, and he is very enthusiastic about his team. Dylan G makes the start for the Mets tonight.
I have to say, of all the pitchers in Mets camp, other than Jonathan Neese, I've been very impressed with Dylan G. He came out saying he was going to work on his breaking ball. He has done that. He's been touched for a couple of home runs that have really kind of made those numbers in spring training, 5 runs in 9 innings pitched, not look so great. But I think that he has really moved forward in getting ready for this season. And look at the Lexus Mets defense. Bay, Torres, and Duda. That should be the opening day outfield for you. Turner, of course, not ready to play. Tejada back in the lineup to work with Murphy with that double play combination. Ike Davis at first base and Josh Thole behind the plate.
Talked to David Wright this afternoon, and he is encouraged with his progress. And he's graduated to taking a few swings and making a few throws. And Terry Collins feels as though Wright might be back in the lineup as early as this weekend or at the latest early next week. But it was funny because David said it's not really a matter of how many at-bats he gets before the season. It's more the up and down of going out in the field and rising and then going into your crouch with every pitch.
Yeah, that ready position and all the little baseball skills around just hitting. Hitting probably comes as natural as any of the skills out there, but it's those extra things that kind of wear and tear on your back and legs.
I think we learned our lesson last spring about how many at-bats a big league hitter really needs before the season. After all, Carlos Beltran missed all of the spring last year until the last few days. Got a handful of at-bats in big league games, a bunch over on the minor league side, and hit the ground running when the season began.
He really did. The only difference between he and Wright, outfield position, especially right field's a little less demanding than third base. And of course, Carlos kind of shut it down in the running game. You would think David would still be trying to steal his 20-25 bases a year.
The other encouraging news today is that Scott Hairston is feeling a lot better. There's been a pretty heavy feeling that Scott would not be ready for opening day. Now it's looking as though he might be coming back from that strained oblique, same one that knocked him out at the end of last year. About set to go. Steve Lombardozzi will lead off for the Nats, playing third base today and leading off. And I think that's significant for Washington. Lombardozzi, who might make this team as a utility player, had been hitting down in the lineup. And G's first pitch of the night is in for a strike, but you know, the Nats don't really have a leadoff hitter.
Well, the problem for Davey Johnson is that he was trying to lead off Desmond with Espinosa behind him, and both those guys are not high on-base percentage players.
There's a good breaking ball by Dylan G, and that's important. I was talking to Josh Thole today about G's curveball, and he said his last start against the Tigers, he really got some good development with it.
Yeah, it's always been a roller before this season, and now he's getting some sharp bite on the pitch.
Ball and 2 strikes to Lombardozzi. Dylan got off to the magnificent start last year. Started out the year 7-0, 8-3 at the All-Star break, but then slumped the second half. And Lombardozzi gets a hold of one to right center. Duda back in the gap, and he runs it down for the first out of the night. And I think that, you know, having that additional weapon means a lot. Talking again with Josh Thole, he said even if it's just to put in the hitter's mind that it's not just going to be sinker, changeup, sinker, changeup.
Well, you can see the percentage of curveballs that he threw, 10%. That's going to have to go up considerably, be more in the 15 to 20% range. But I think even more importantly, for Dylan G, his ability to pitch inside to the right-handers and left-handers is going to be his key if he's going to jump to the next level.
You see Desmond swinging through the fastball. Desmond now 26 years old, hit .253 last year, and they're hoping for better things from him. .298 on base percentage last year. That's what we were talking about. It's hard to stick a guy on the leadoff spot with that kind of number. And there's the curveball from G, a ball and a strike.
He's immensely talented, has a great power, can do a lot of things. He cut his errors down, boy, almost by 15 or 16 last season from the year before. So he has made lots of improvement, at least defensively.
From 34 errors 2 years ago to 23 last year. He's spent a long time developing in first the Expos, then the Nationals farm system. They always thought a lot of him. Probably did not come to the big leagues as quick as they expected. And at 26, now it's time for Desmond to take off. 1-2 from G, and the fastball fouled back. Got it up to 92 that time.
If you notice Dylan G in spring training, Gary, I know you've been watching some games on the TV, working much more quickly than he did last season. And I wonder if that's a constant effort to kind of maintain his ability to stay around the strike zone.
Well, there will be a great role model in the Mets division this year. I don't know. Were you doing the game the day Mark Burley pitched?
I was. He's a play-by-play announcer's dream.
Line toward the left field corner, and that'll hook and go foul. Well, all I know is if Burley faces the Mets 5 or 6 times this season, there'll be a lot of early dinner reservations.
Mark Burley is the only pitcher in baseball now that you will look when you get to Miami or the last game at Citi Field if the Marlins are in town, and you'll go, hey, Burley's pitching on getaway day. Fantastic.
Well, maybe Burley versus G will work out well if Dillon keeps up this pace. Here's the 1-2 to Desmond. And it's taken low.
Interesting pitch there, Gary. Little changeup down and into the right-hander. So sinker down and in, and then followed by a changeup down and in, trying to change the speed in the same spot.
Again, he comes with a changeup and a full count to Desmond. Well, that changeup has been a pretty well-refined pitch ever since he got to the major leagues. He a 21st round draft pick out of college in 07. He's now 25 years old. And he gets the outside corner. Generous call from Hunter Wendelstedt. And Desmond is down for the second out.
Well, spring training, going for that outside corner. Pretty good pitch. And I don't think we should take it away from Tolle and his ability to frame the ball. That's something he's always struggled with. It's been much better this spring.
So 2 out and nobody on. Here's Danny Espinosa, the switch hitting second baseman. Much higher average as a left-hand hitter, much more power as a right-hand hitter, and he takes a first pitch curveball for ball 1. So clearly G is working on that curveball early in the game.
And you hear a lot of the Mets pitchers talk about working on things, but I think that Dillon G has done a better job than all of them.
2-0 to Espinosa. During the season, though, if you're a guy like G, who's primarily a fastball changeup pitcher, are you better off throwing it early in the game, throwing the curveball, or holding it off till that second time through the batting order?
No, I don't think he should hold it off at all, because I think it gives him a better opportunity when he does get in trouble. It won't be like that's the 15th changeup they've seen. Maybe it's only the 5th or 6th.
You see the backwards numbers for G, mostly because of the proficiency with the changeup. And he walks Espinosa on 4 pitches, and the Nats at their first base run.
Those are the little things that kill you as a pitcher, even in spring training. You get the first 2 guys out, you walk the next guy in 4 pitches, and listen, Ramos is, Mark DeRosa is sitting here, but in the regular season it's going to be Ryan Zimmerman, and you could run into a problem.
Mark DeRosa, who's been little other than injured over the last few years, trying to win a spot with the Nats. Had just 86 at bats with the Giants last year. DeRosa out of Bergen Catholic and the University of Pennsylvania, now 37 years old. And a very useful player if you can keep him available over the course of a full season, because he can play so many different places.
Well, that's one thing, Gary, that's never changed since Davey was a manager for the Mets. He likes well-established veterans on the bench, guys who can play numerous positions. So DeRosa is his man, as you say, if he can stay healthy.
Hey, I remember a rather raw big leaguer who could play a lot of places, who found a place on your bench in '86. A guy named Mitchell.
That's right.
Here's the 0-1, and that drops in for a strike. 0-2.
I don't know. Mitch was raised in those tough streets in San Diego. He was wise beyond his years.
Got old fast.
Again, another fastball right on the corner.
Nothing at 2 to DeRosa with a man on and 2 out. Just missed that fastball inside, but that's what you were talking about, establishing inside early.
Like this, because if you remember, Mets fans, one of the problems that G has always had when coming into righties, he hits a lot of batters. He's been really trying to work on making sure that ball is on the corner or just off the corner.
He's spending a lot of time worrying about Espinosa, who stole 17 bases last year. And that's finished a game under 500 this year, and with a full season of Steven Strasburg and some of the other pitchers they brought in, their pitching should be even more effective than last season. The question is, will their offense be a lot better? Off the plate, 2-2. I mean, last year they were 11th in the league in runs scored, 12th in on-base percentage, 12th in slugging percentage, and they didn't really make any major improvements to their offense. They'll get Adam LaRoche back for a full season, provided he's healthy by opening day.
Well, you think Jason Worth can't have the same kind of year.
But Michael Morse might not either.
That's right.
Too high, 3-2. I mean,
especially playing the outfield.
Is that a career year for Morse, or is he capable of hitting 30 home runs every year?
Well, you know, when he's in the outfield, that is not his favorite position. So I think that angst of having to play that position. When he came into first base, when LaRoche had to leave with a bad shoulder, he played his best baseball.
Espinosa gets set to take off. 3-2 and 2 down. In the air to shallow center, and right there is Torres having it lined up, and that retires the side. So a walk in one left. Mets will come to bat against Steven Strasburg when we come back. You know, I've heard tell over the years there's alligators in Demgar waters.
There definitely is.
Here's your Geico Mets starting lineup. Daniel Murphy swinging the bat the way he is accustomed to and making strides defensively. And the starting 8 for the Mets today, that's the opening day lineup, other than the absence of David Wright, who still has not played a game this spring with that abdominal tear, but should be back within a week. Steven Strasburg makes his 4th start of the spring.
Well, he made 5 starts last season, coming back from Tommy John surgery in 2010. Of course, shocked the world with those starts, 12 starts he made in 2010. But he's been hurt by the home run ball in spring training. 7.5 ERA, and has given up 3 home runs.
And sometimes it's hard to judge that, especially here in Florida, because you get such windy days, both for you and against you as a pitcher. Andres Torres leads off and takes the fastball wide.
I think Strasburg, as you and I were talking about in between break, Gary, looks a lot thinner, looks a lot more fit.
You know, that's been a process for Steven for a while as Torres rolls one to the right side. And Espinosa makes the play for the first out. You go back to high school, and Strasburg, growing up, was 250 pounds in high school. And it's one of the reasons why professional teams were not all that interested. Also, his demeanor was not the greatest. He was a bit of a hothead, and that's why he ended up going to San Diego State.
Scout speak, bad body.
But his first year at San Diego State, he lost about 30 pounds. The next winter, he put on about 10 pounds of good weight. It's been a process for him ever since. Here's Daniel Murphy. Murphy hit 320 this spring. He hit 320 last year. Ho-hum. All he has to do is stay healthy, and so he can play second base every day.
Well, we were talking about his physique. When you're talking about his motion, it's about as simple as you're going to see for a 6'5", 6 foot, 6-inch young man. Great mechanics, follows through to the plate, and then turns to first base. And what happens to a lot of these guys, Gary, is that when they have Tommy John surgery, what do? You work out for a year. That's why they get in better shape.
Murphy takes that fastball outside. You know, I was looking at Strasburg's numbers from his first 17 big league starts, and You know that he's got a lot of strikeouts, right? He struck out 14 his first start. He's got 116 strikeouts in 92 innings. 116 strikeouts and 19 walks.
Yeah, well, that's
19.
That's Clemens-like. When Clemens came up, Doc Gooden when he came up, those are the things that was different about those guys. They had not only the best stuff in the league, they had some of the best control in the league.
Behind on Murphy, though, 3-1 with Jason Bay on deck. Murphy fouls off that heater.
Here's a City Nats defense. Carroll and Keel. Bernardina in right field. Steven Lombardozzi in third. Desmond and Espinoza, they'll be starting for the Nats up the middle. DeRosa at first base. And Wilson Ramos, the Mets killer, behind the plate.
Interesting in that outfield. Carroll and Keel and Bernardina. Here's a 3-2 to Murphy. Too high for ball 4. With Bryce Harper having been sent down, I mean, the thought was that if Harper made the team work, would move over to play center. But now those 3 guys in the Nats outfield tonight are competing for the center field.
It's a tryout camp here at the Digital Domain Park.
But what I found also intriguing is that now, and this was true right before he got sent down too, they've got Harper playing center field. Yeah. So they think maybe that's the long-term answer.
Well, I did not know that Bryce Harper, I got to see him play here live. I did not know he had that kind of speed. So he will be able to play center field, and he's going to be some kind of player. Whether the teams admit it or not, you don't want to start the clock on a young player like that because it's going to cost you dollars.
Well, they did that with Strasburg 2 years ago as well.
Ryan Braun for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Jason Bay 5 for 20 on the spring, looking for his first home run. The Mets have only hit 5 home runs in their first 15 games. Murphy takes off. Almost his throw. Can't get there in time. Tough pitch to handle. Murph has his first stolen base in the spring.
Well, the Mets are going to have to be aggressive this year. And I'm talking about every single chance they get a chance to get a big lead, get a big jump. There's a big motion by Strasburg to the plate. They've got the time. Take the chance. Good job by Murph.
Well, when you get a prodigy like a Strasburg who gives up less than a base runner per inning, Bay gets under one to center field. And Ankiel controls. That's the second out. You know, often learning how to put base runners on is something that comes very late.
I agree. And also I think that you're trying to just put a run or two on the board for your pitcher to go up against this great young pitcher. They used to do it against Dwight Gooden. Try in the first inning to maybe lay down a bunt and get someone over.
And Doc, I don't think there was any point in his career when he really was good at holding runners on.
Yeah.
But for the first half dozen years of his career, he didn't have to be. Here's Ike Davis. And Ike fouls it back.
And also I think that, Terry's only been here for a year, but, he's been in the system for a couple of years. The Mets have been waiting for that 3-run home run for 2 seasons now, and it just hasn't come. Now, maybe it will come. We'll see.
Well, I mean, the Mets have been high on the National League list in stolen bases the last few years, but that's because of one guy. And now that Reyes is gone, it's going to be a team effort to take that extra base.
Yeah, it's going to be more like the norm. You'll really see what their stolen base as a team amount is this season. You'll really get a better gauge than when you have one guy who's automatic for 50.
Murphy at second and 2 down. Slider from Strasburg misses 2-1. Talked to Tim Tuffle today, just trying to get a gauge on what he feels seeing Ike move around coming off the ankle injury. And his feeling is that there is absolutely nothing about that ankle that has slowed Ike down in any way. Not in terms of his lateral movement, not in terms of his straight ahead skills, not going back on balls. And judging by what we had, the Mets as a team had to deal with for 5 months last year,
right.
that's a great sign.
And Ike is harder to judge than most players because let's face it, Ike doesn't have a lot of foot speed, so you're looking at some other things.
3-1 from Strasburg is popped up, and Desmond taking charge, puts it away to end the inning. So just as G before him, Strasburg yields a walk-in, nothing more. As we jet ski our way into the second, Mets and Nats, no score.
Bring the family to Citi Field with a Mets Power Pack. Your $22
And Android, get spring training scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. Second inning, Wilson Ramos leads off against Dylan G. Ramos had a terrific first full year in the big leagues last year, and then about as upsetting an offseason as you could possibly have. A kidnapped victim home in Venezuela, fortunately released after a relatively short period of time. Short if you were looking from afar, not if you were Wilson Ramos. As Turner makes the play on Ramos, 1 pitch and 1 out. Can you even imagine?
What was it, Gary? Like 50, 51 hours, something like that? I can't imagine, Gary. I can't. And what it must have felt like for his family as they had to wait. I'm just happy he's back here in the uniform.
And it's a constant threat down in Venezuela, and a lot of the more prominent players have their personal security and live behind gates, and unfortunately have to insulate themselves that way. There's Rick Ankiel, but Ramos had not reached the point where he made that kind of money or felt as though he was that prominent, and I'm sure now things have changed. Ankiel hasn't been able to play for more than a week now because of a hamstring injury, but coming in on a minor league deal and trying to win the center field job, he had to get himself back in the lineup.
Well, I think that Rick Ankiel is the kind of player that you would love on your ball club. He can play all 3 positions. He brings a lot of defense. Of course, that brilliant arm. We saw the throw last season that some of us still can't believe we saw. His key is that he strikes out a lot, and he needs to put the ball in play more.
At just 239 last year and some 380 at bats. Of course, Ankiel grew up right around here in Port St. Lucie. G behind 3-1. He walked a batter in the first inning. And Ankiel breaks his bat and lifts one to shallow center. And Torres is there. And quickly there are 2 out. Nice for G breaking a bat on 3-1. Don't get that too often.
What's interesting is that the 3-0 pitch was a sinking fastball, and the 3-2 pitch was also, and that's very interesting to me because that's another kind of change for Dylan as opposed to that 4-seamer he would usually throw when he's behind the hitter.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Brett Carroll, the former Florida Marlin, who had just 3 big league at bats last year with Milwaukee, spent most of the year in the minors. He takes the breaking ball down. Carroll, a career backup in Florida, now 29 years old. Hit 16 home runs in AAA overall last year in Nashville and Pawtucket. And he takes a strike, 1-1.
1-0 fastball up. Carroll thought it was too high, but not home plate umpire Wendelstedt.
By the way, you mentioned Wendelstedt. That's Hunter Wendelstedt behind the year, and I'm very sad to hear about the passing of Hunter's dad, Harry, this month.
Had his own school after he retired. Harry was one of the great umpires, solid citizen.
Lays to center, but right at Torres, straight as a string, 3rd out.
A guy that you just had so much respect for. He certainly would be missed.
So it's a 1-2-3 inning for Dylan G as a frolic.
Leadership is
The second inning on a sparkling night here in Port St. Lucie. Lucas Duda leads off for the Mets in a scoreless game. Lucas 4 for 15 with a home run this spring. Strasburg deals him outside for ball 1. Lucas last year 10 home runs and just over 300 at bats, and there is so much riding on the development of Lucas Duda over the next 6 months.
It was amazing 2 seasons ago when he came up and he had that awful start. I don't know what he was, Gary. 0 for something, 1 for I don't know what 34, it was. 34, I think. And you know, your first thought was, boy, here's another big guy that might not pan out. And you know what? He has just worked hard. He's had to change positions a couple of times.
You know, if you even go back 3 years ago, he wasn't even such a prospect, and made such strides during that first half of the 2010 season that he really played himself into prospect status. Now you look at him and you say, well, could be a star.
You know, it's hard to gauge it here against Strasburg, throwing 95 on March 20th, but he showed great patience, which you don't see in young hitters, and he had the ability to fight off and get his hits against tough left-handed pitchers. That's what separated him from me.
And the breaking ball sits a little high. 3-2. Fouls off that 98-mile-an-hour fastball. And you know, these are guys who are, if everything goes right for both of them, going to face each other innumerable times over the next number of years, playing in the same division. How much groundwork gets laid in these spring training at bats?
Well, he'll get your eyes open, absolutely.
Strike 3 call, got the outside black with 97-mile-an-hour fastball. Meanwhile, it's a little bit of concern for Andres Torres, who brought a couple of fly balls in that last inning, and after catching this line drive to end the top of the second, watch this. Just seemed to take a bad step, and they were massaging the lower part of his left leg when he came in.
Now, I don't know if you guys remember, as Justin Turner here stands in the box, I'll clue you into what happened right before that. He had to catch a fly ball prior to that by Ankiel, and Ankiel hit it and broke his bat, and he went out first and then had to come in really quickly, and that was the sharp movement. I don't think just running in from the outfield is where he got it.
Well, it'll certainly bear watching, and we'll see whether Andres goes out to play the field in the top of the third. But you know, that area where he's grabbing that calf, that's always such a big concern. There's the 0-2 to Turner, and the slider misses away.
I think the Mets have had enough of their players who play with speed having leg injuries. Enough is enough.
Well, of course, last year was an injury-plagued year for Andres Torres. He had groin issues to deal with, and also an appendectomy, which obviously has nothing to do with playing baseball.
And Strasburg is intent on lighting up the radar gun today.
Well, he's pushed it to 98 so far. There have been triple-digit ratings in his career, but he seems to have more success in the 95-96 range than he does when he pushes it too hard. Hit the other way, but right to the first baseman DeRosa, and Turner retired. 2 out.
I had to pitch a game in Kissimmee against Nolan Ryan, and the Mets players really got to him. Nolan was out there for 5 innings. They gave up 10 or 11 hits, 5 or 6 runs, and they were just cracking the ball all over the place. And you know how you do your laps in the outfield? I'm doing my laps, and we finally stopped in center field. I said, "How you doing, David?" I said, "How do you feel?" He goes, "Well, they know I got to throw the fastball. I got to throw the fastball, so that's why they're hitting it. It'll be a little faster once April comes." He was just made it so simple.
Josh totally takes a strike. Well, Strasburg has only made 17 career starts, but even before he made the first one, there had been talk about how he could be the best ever, which, you know, that takes in a lot of real estate, the best ever. And, you know, in the case of the Washington Nationals, they had back-to-back drafts where they had the #1 pick, and in each draft took a player who the consensus was might be the best ever.
That's right.
Strasburg, and then the next year, Bryce Harper.
So to get a pitcher and then an everyday player is just unheard of.
Here's the 0-2 to Tolley, and he lashes one foul. Now, whether Strasburg and Harper wind up being Christy Mathewson and Babe Ruth probably remains to be seen. But Strasburg's off to a pretty good start in his career despite the Tommy John surgery. And Harper, you have to figure, is going to be in the big leagues and starting to prove what he can do by the middle of the season.
Well, I think what excites people, Gary, is that if you had to get scouts and even your scouts and the sabermetrics people together, as you can see the timeline on the injuries for Steven, and put them together and put them in a separate room and said, come up with the prototype for the best body for the pitcher you want to draft. This would be the guy.
Broken bat. Strasburg avoids the barrel and makes the play to retire Tolley and end the inning. Mets go out 1-2-3. No score in St. Lucie. Third inning at Digital Domain Park. Mets and Nationals no score. And as we suspected, Andres Torres does come out of the game. Adam Lowen takes over in center field. And it's been kind of a pattern in Mets camp this spring. And Terry Collins had his moment to explode about it last week. The number of little injuries that have cost players time.
Well, he was doing two things. One, he was frustrated by not having his team on the field, because Terry knows, as well as everyone who watches the Mets and us and everyone else, that the Mets in a depth chart way are not their strongest. They need their players out there on the field. And I think also he wanted players to know that he's kind of sick and tired of every time there's a little twitch here and there that you're out for a couple of weeks. You know what? Play through it sometimes.
But you also have to wonder, Roger Bernardino stands in against Dylan G. Given what's happened with this ball club over the last 3-4 years and the number of injuries that have been debilitating, whether as an organization there's an abundance of caution being used, especially during spring training, in bringing players back. On the check swing, G gets the handle and throws out Bernardino. You know what I mean? That maybe, whether it's an organizational policy or maybe it's just subconscious, that nobody's taking any chances right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's a policy. I think, though, that when push comes to shove, Gary, you get to a point where if you're the guy who has to make the decision, you don't want to make the decision that makes the injury worse. Now, I'm not talking about guys like David and serious injuries that need 3 weeks.
Murphy gets eaten up on the Strasburg ground ball and can't throw him out. A sharp one-hopper, and Murphy give it a little ground and couldn't quite come up with it.
Well, it's interesting in spring training. A lot of times the teams, even the National League, we use DHs. Both teams letting their pitcher hit today, and Strasburg fires the first bullet.
Strasburg with only one career hit there. Gets credit for a base hit. You wonder what could Murphy have done differently on a ball like that.
Well, I think there wasn't enough time really to back up and try to play that off his body. I think he did what any second baseman would do. Now the great ones, they make that play because they have hand-eye coordination that is off the planet. But Murph's still working at his position.
Let's look at it in real time.
I mean, if you wanted to say, well, he's already on the grass, but this is an in-between hop. You know, he kind of fell to the side there if he wanted to. And maybe, I don't know, if watching the TV and watching Mr. Cabrera go down yesterday, maybe you feel like, you know, spring training feels aren't that great. I don't know if I want to put my face in front of this one.
I think also he might have misjudged how hard that ball was hit, that it wasn't hit quite as hard as he thought. Change up for a strike to Lombardozzi, and it's 1-1. But it's all a work in progress. You know, it's a matter of getting the reps, and certainly he has not played nearly as much second base as he has other positions. But of course, the issue is that he's gotten hurt playing second base each of the last 2 years.
Gary, good infielders, when the ball's hit to them, their first feeling is of solitude, quiet, here it comes. And guys who are just learning position, anxiety, here it comes, you know, and sometimes you're right, they misjudge the speed.
G ahead on Lombardozzi, 1-2. Fly to right his first time up. Davis playing behind Strasburg at first. G again with a little message inside after getting ahead in the count.
Much better. We've seen in the past that ball will bleed over the inside corner. He now is throwing it right at the hitter's hands and making him move away from that ball. That opens up. He can come back inside. He can make curveball inside, whatever he wants to do.
Double play ball right at Murphy, and he and Tejada handle it beautifully. So that's we're happy to get Tejada back today so that he and Murphy can turn double plays together. And there's your 4-6-3. No score at 4. In progress defensively more than Daniel Murphy does, and he was able to joke with his teammates Zach Davis, Josh Satin there about his experience fielding that hard shot by Strasburg.
At times on that shot, Murph looked like he was playing dodgeball. He's great.
Got a little Jimmy Fallon in it, doesn't he?
He's just something. Go.
Steven Strasburg laid out getting back to the mound after running the bases in the last inning. Strasburg went 4 in his last spring training start against Atlanta. Could go 5 or 6 today.
Well, Gary, you and I were talking about that there was a time, and I'm not saying it happens now because there's more breaks, but there was a time that when you would run out that double play to second base, he would just come to the mound, and one of the players would bring you your glove. It was like the closest thing you could get to being a player as a pitcher. But nowadays, it's in for the rub down, the water.
Well, you say more breaks. You're insinuating it's our fault.
No, we're the problem. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, here's Ruben Tejada. Ruben back in the lineup today after missing the last week or so with a groin injury. Ruben got off to a pretty good hitting start this spring, and it looks a little different physique-wise than he did when he went home to Panama last winter. Definitely has put on 8 to 10 pounds in upper body strength. And that's not necessarily about, hitting more extra base hits. That's more about, as he grounds one past Lombardozzi and down the line, that'll get him an extra base hit. So the Mets have their first hit off Strasburg, a ground ball double for Tejada. I was going to say, it's more about surviving the long season.
Yes. I'm a big believer that playing Tejada right now, all teams are playing him in at the corners, both at third and at first base. I'd make him prove that he can bunt the baseball for a hit before I'd play him so far in. That should have been an easy play for Lombardozzi.
So Dylan G will go up there looking to bunt Tejada over to third. He's down to Tim Tuffle, the Mets' new third base coach, to pick up his sign. He had 8 sacrifices this year to go with 5 hits. But this has been a point of emphasis all spring, as it was for most of the year last year with the pitchers. Can't even count the number of bunting sessions that this team's pitchers had last year, maybe more than any team I've ever seen. But it just didn't work out, at least not last year.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22 what happened to them last year. They got on such a bad roll, but they tried to work on it endlessly, and I think it got where it added pressure, where they just felt like they had to get it down, and it was deflating when they didn't get that first pitch down. Hopefully this year they'll relax. Don't try to be perfect. Just get your angle and get that bunt so the third baseman handles it. Get your man to third base.
2-1 to G. Adam Lowen out on deck.
Now the infield is really charging with DeRosa at first. Espinosa's leaving his position too early at second, but you're certainly not going to put the hit on against Strasburg. Tough enough to bunt.
Off the plate and the foul ball. And so it's 2-2 to G.
My advice would be to fly Buddy Harrelson down here. Keep him for 2 weeks. Don't let him even stay at a hotel. Just stay on the field and work with the guys 24 hours, because he was the best I've ever been around.
But at the end of the day, Ronnie, is it that difficult a craft? I mean, aren't the mechanics of bunting fairly simple? And G does it perfectly, forcing Lombardozzi to handle it. So then against the 2-strike bunt down. But you know what I'm saying? It's not like hitting where everybody's got slightly different mechanics, and it's very difficult to get the bat in a hitting position to hit the ball solidly. You're in a stopped position.
Yeah. There's real fundamentals to bunting the ball right. The better your fundamentals are, the better chance you're going to get it right. And see, Dylan, the only thing I would use against that right there is that he raised the bat before he bunted. You always want to keep it as still as possible. Makes it better. But he had the perfect angle, and he had the perfect speed. He made it. He got it past the pitcher, made the third baseman feel it. Nice job.
So an RBI chance for Adam Lowen in his first at bat, and he takes the breaking ball inside. Lowen took over in center field for Andres Torres, who hurt his leg while fielding in the second inning. And we're going to get a medical report in just a second.
Adam Lowen's had an interesting camp. I think he's proven, Gary, that he is a quite capable hitter with some great power. I think the corner positions he's played admirably. I think the times that he put him in center field, he struggled out there.
They're calling it a left calf strain for Torres, not surprisingly. Pulled foul by Lowen. And I think that becomes an issue because, well, especially if Torres is out for any length of time, but even if he's not, the Mets have an issue about who their backup center fielder is going to be. And Scott Hairston would normally be that guy, and Scott's feeling a lot better the last couple of days and could be ready by opening day. But if he's not, the Mets have of a big question mark there as far as who can be their backup center fielder, because Lowen hasn't looked great out there. Mike Baxter has just begun to play a little more center, and he's got very little experience, maybe 40-50 games in the minor leagues. And you don't know who's going to win that left-hand hitting job off the bench, but it might depend on their ability to play center field. And the breaking ball, and Lowen went around, and Strasburg gets the strikeout he needs.
Tough with Mr. Lowen there. That was nasty. That's the best breaking ball he's thrown all night. Starts out at the shoulders, ends up at the knees on the inside corner.
So Strasburg up to 45 pitches, manages to pin Tejada at third. Now there are 2 out, and it's left to Daniel Murphy to try and get him in. Murphy walked and stole a base his first time up. No score. We're in the 3rd. And Strasburg pours one over for a strike.
You know, in these spring training games, it's those little things that you marvel at, or someone who used to pitch and have this profession. Spring training game, 1 out, guy on third, turns it up just a notch with that breaking ball to get himself a punch out.
Heat outside. It's 1-1 to Murphy.
Every great pitcher I've been around, from Dwight Gooden to Dave Stewart to Dennis Eckersley, they get angry with that guy on third. They do not want to give up runs. No one does, but they can do something about it.
Drops that one in for a strike, and it's 1-2. He's a pretty good command of that breaking ball today.
He has just turned it up a notch. That is a 12-6 breaking ball.
Well, when you can throw 98 or 99 and get your curveball in for a strike, you know what they call you? 20-game winner.
There you go.
However, it might be hard for Strasburg to do that this year, if only because they've talked about a strict innings limit for him. They're talking about 160 innings this year. Murph wastes that curveball.
And usually I poo-poo that idea, but he has 1 year off of surgery. He's a very valuable part of this franchise as they move forward. And I think, although you'd like to see him out there more, and I'm sure his teammates will want to see him out there more, his health over the long run is going to mean a lot to this organization.
Nice stop by Ramos. It's 2-2. But yeah, the other piece of that is, from a competitive standpoint for the Nats, you might say, well, it might cost us games if we take him out after 5 or 6 innings. However, in Washington's case, their bullpen is so strong they might be able to absorb that.
Yes, they will, but also the people around him are going to have the ability to pitch more innings and are better players, better pitchers. Gio Gonzalez, the Edwin Jacksons.
He's quite an at-bat by Murphy, by the way, staying in it.
Their #1 pitcher now is fighting for the 5th job. Maybe has a better chance at it now since Chin-Min Wong went down with the injury.
Wong is battling a leg injury, and so John Lanning is in line for that 5th spot. But maybe Johnson's got a bit of an embarrassment of riches in that pitching staff, both starters and relievers. And another emergency hack by Murphy. I'll tell you what, Strasburg has thrown 3 or 4 strikeout pitches in this at bat, and Murphy's still in there.
Well, no one on the team is better than Murph at taking that pitch on the corner at the last second and fouling it off. I'm surprised, honestly, that Murph doesn't get more catcher's interference as late as he swings the bat.
Almost took out a couple of his own teammates that time with that emergency hack. And fouls off the high fastball. 9 pitches deep in this at bat, and Strasburg still hasn't gotten it. So, you know, you talk about pitchers who bear down in those RBI situations. Hitters do too.
Well, you know, I've seen Murph now for a few seasons. He can just flat out hit. He has an idea. He's ultra competitive.
10th pitch of the at bat on the way, and he fouls off another fastball. And sometimes in the doing of it, it might not look pretty, but eventually he gets that one pitch he can handle, and that looks awfully pretty.
Right.
See his numbers with 2 strikes, certainly better than the norm. And the curveball bounced to second base. Nice big hop for Espinosa, and he throws out Murphy after an 11-pitch battle. Strasburg strands Tejada at third. Now What exactly would you expect to catch out there in the swamp?
I have no idea. I'm not a person that fishes in swamps or rivers. I have been in rivers. I learned to fly fish with my father when I was a kid, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but there's some artistic value in standing in the river trying to catch it, at least. But you know, standing at the edge of the swamp like that, it's a little. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, it doesn't have much of a Tom Sawyer quality to it, does it, out there?
Or Ernest Hemingway.
That's right.
Dylan G in his fourth inning of work has allowed just one infield hit, and that was the pitcher Strasburg, and he gets ahead on Desmond 1-2. Desmond wearing a new number this year. Didn't he wear number 6 last year?
That's right, changing it up. Well, he had a good offensive year 2 seasons ago. Good defensive season last year, so he wants to put it all together.
Maybe that was Norma Desmond's number.
There you go.
Here's the 1-1, and it's hit down the right field line.
You know, I think with Desmond and Espinosa, Danny Espinosa, I think they're 2 incredibly talented players who are learning on the job. And I think that this season, I would believe the people that are involved with the Nationals front office believe that this is the year that they're either going to turn into an Utley Rollins kind of combination or not.
Toward the hole, Tejada on the backhand makes the jumping toss and the stretch by Davis, and he's safe. Eichert to come off the bag. Nice effort by Tejada, making the jump toss in his first game back in the lineup.
Well, it's good to know that coming off that little groin injury, no ill effects. Great jump, throw off the bag. Ike did everything he could to try to keep his toe on that bag, but of course drifted off and made the play. And Desmond, of course, to go along with those great hitting and defensive skills, also has some speed.
So the second hit off Dylan G, both have been infield hits. And on the other half of that Nats double play combination, Danny Espinosa, who walked on 4 pitches his first time up. And you know, talking about Espinosa and Desmond, I think that the Nats have the luxury of having a couple of relatively young middle infielders who don't have to be stars. They could be complementary players on that team. You know, you've got Zimmerman signed for the long term. You have Worth signed for the long term. Good change up by G to start off Espinosa. You've got Harper about to make his splash this season. Morse coming off a big year.
You know, it's a good change up by G. The only problem with that pitch is you have to make sure you threw it where he threw it, and that's in the dirt. Anything for a strike or a change up, what is the left-handed hitter going to do? Pull it. First baseman is covering first. That opens up the hole.
And you know, talking with Tim Tuffle, one of the adjustments they've made with Murphy is they're playing him a little closer to the bag than they normally would in double play situations, and that opens up that hole even more.
But it gives him a chance for double plays, makes it easier for him to turn double plays, and it only is a single. You know, your pitcher can still work out of the jam.
But it just goes back to what you say about pitch placement for a guy like G as he throws that changeup again. You've got to keep that ball down out of the strike zone. Otherwise, because Murphy's playing that much closer to second, you've got that much more room for him to get a base hit.
And if you're going to go hard, you can go hard away with that sinker, because if he tries to pull that, that's a harder pitch to hit in the hole.
Now with a couple of change-ups, G's gotten ahead on Espinosa 0-2. Mark DeRosa waiting on deck. Ball and 2 strikes. Desmond, of course, is a stolen base threat, 25 last year. 50 pitches for G, whose last outing against Detroit, he went 4 innings, so looking to go at least 5 today. So John Neese already pitched into the 6th inning on a day when he allowed the leadoff batter to reach in every inning and didn't give up a run. It's hard to do. But Neese has looked outstanding, and Johan Santana, cross your fingers, has looked outstanding as well.
He's pitching tomorrow in Jupiter, you said, which will be interesting because his last outing probably was his worst outing. You know, threw a lot of pitches, didn't have the control he had in the first 2 outings. So,
and he gets Espinosa swinging. So G has his second strikeout, and that's the first out of the inning. But I thought what was significant about Johan his last start was that his velocity was up, and you know, it's small increments for him as we move through spring training to see a little bit more of the old Santana.
I've been very impressed. You know, I said the first start I wouldn't look at the gun, and when I saw what he was throwing, I started to look at the gun. So it's very encouraging.
Here's DeRosa with 1 out and 1 on, and he takes strike.
Well, he can win with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball because we've seen him do it.
Well, and I think what's also been impressive is that in the couple of months before he went down with the injury 2 years ago, he really got away from throwing his slider, and his sliders look great this spring, I thought.
It has looked great, and he also we talked about this, a little bit of a struggle in this last game. We've also seen him use it against the right-handed hitter, which I never saw him ever use as a Met.
Right. 1-1 to DeRosa. Now Terry is still being coy about whether he's penciled Santana in for opening day. He said, I want him to be ready for opening day, but he hasn't said he's my opening day pitcher. And I wonder how long Terry will wait before making that decision. He'd certainly love to have him out there opening day. Desmond runs. Toley's throw on a hop skips on by. And Desmond will stay put as Lowen charged it nicely. Stolen base for Desmond. His first of the spring.
Well, not a good throw by Josh, but this base was stolen on Dillon. Pitches up. It's in a perfect place. This throw's got to be a little better than that one hop. And for Murph, this is another thing that he'll have to learn. See how he kind of flails at that with his glove? I know he's trying to make the play. Desmond's going to be safe. Once you recognize that, just block the baseball. That's all.
Kind of like a first baseman.
Yeah.
You know, if you know you have no play, you come off the bag.
It's like call off the jam, you know.
Nice roller derby reference. Outstanding. You a Mike Gannon guy or a Charlie O'Connell guy?
Charlie O'Connell, of course.
San Francisco Bay Bomber. Kickoff try, and they should get him, and he just gets back. I don't know how he did. Throws a little bit high, but they caught Desmond napping.
Boy, nice job by Dillon and Murph. The surprise play. Good throw. Just need the throw to be down. If that throw is down, Desmond is out.
Surprised him to the point where he didn't even have time to slide. G ahead 1-2 on DeRosa. And it's in there for a call strike 3, and DeRosa knew it. Back-to-back strikeouts for Dillon G. 2 out of the inning.
Again, his third strikeout of this ball game. Back-to-back, good pitch on the corner, and that coming inside again to the right-handed hitter, and not that ball that's we saw it tail into the right-handers. It's true, right to that corner of the plate. Nice to see.
So 2 out now Wilson Ramos, who grounded weakly to third his first time up. He takes the fastball for a strike. Well, we have seen it over and over since Ramos first came over from the Twins to the Nationals 2 years ago. He has just pummeled Mets pitching during the regular season. I didn't realize it was over 500, but it feels like that. Turner picks up the short hop and throws out Ramos. 2 out the innings. And G works around the leadoff infield hit and keeps it a scoreless game. Play Ball Award was a huge success, helping 6 local youth baseball leagues pay for much-needed improvements. This season, it's your turn. Help your youth baseball or softball league with a $5,000 grant. Apply for the SNY Play Ball Award today at sny.tv/playball. We go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Jason Bay leads off against Steven Strasburg. He takes a curveball for a strike, and Strasburg has been emphasizing that curveball tonight. Bay fly to center his first time up. It'll be Bay, Davis, and Duda against Strasburg in the 4th. Another breaking ball. This went in for a strike.
You know, all games are kind of equal in spring training in the beginning, and then kind of after that off day you were talking about in the opening, Gary, you start to maybe turn it up a notch. Well, it's easy to have to turn it up a notch against Steven. Because Strasburg just has such good stuff. If you're not on your A game, he might give you an embarrassing evening.
And runs the fastball just inside, 2-2.
So he's throwing him 2 curveballs that he can't hit, a breaking ball in the dirt away, and then a 96-mile-an-hour fastball an inch off the corner.
And that fastball foul back.
Sorry for the older people, but the concourse here is built in such a way that if the ball is hit straight back, it hits the concourse, it comes straight down, usually near someone's helmet.
Need to stay alert. Popped up. This one's in play. Lombardozzi into foul ground calling. 1 away. So Bay pops up, 1 out. Well, there is Met royalty for you. Mookie Wilson on the left, Al Jackson on the right. Al, of course, pitched for the 62 Mets. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary season. And Al Jackson is 76 years old.
We are in Florida, you know, Ponce de Leon, the whole thing.
He goes out there on the field, and I swear he could pick up a baseball in his left hand and pitch today.
He was, well, both. Probably as good a gentleman to ever wear a Mets uniform. Mookie, as a teammate, taught me more about being a gentleman. And I'll tell you, Al Jackson saved my career, folks. I was on my way to being a wild pitcher, and I'm talking about not finding the strike zone, to a guy that was taught how to be a pro by Al.
Carroll across the line to grab Davis's fly ball for the second out. And Al served this organization in every conceivable capacity, and so for that matter has Mookie. There's Al Jackson's career. He went 8-20 for those 62 Mets, which is a badge of honor, because, you know, if you could just take the baseball every game.
There were times I'm sure he didn't want to take the baseball. He just, you know, when I first met Al, and it was my last year in AAA, he said, hey, you just sit next to me and don't move, and I'm going to teach you this game. And I thought it meant when we'd get to practice, there's 65 pitches for Strasburg, you know, he'd take me on the mound, teach me some new pitches, took me with a baseball, and we did back and forth from left field to right field for an hour every day. That was his way of breaking it. He did.
Sounds like a drill sergeant.
Oh, and he used to have great things, Gary. He used to, you know, he'd be talking about, he always believed that you had to own the outside corner, like a lot. Atlanta Braves went through that, a lot of different organizations. But the way he would explain it, hopefully here with 2 outs against Lucas, the way he would explain it is that if the fish are all on this side of the pond and there's no fish on this side of the pond, where are you going to fish? Well, that's how the outside corner is. That's where all the fish are. You got to fish over there. I mean, that's how he explained it. And for a kid from, you know, Massachusetts, I had never heard anyone teach you like that. It was fantastic. Even Lucas thought that was a strike.
He was ready to walk off. And that curveball is just not fair for a guy that throws 98.
And it doesn't break until late. It reminds me so much of David Cohn's curveball maybe in its day. It just looks like a fastball, and then the spin starts.
Lucas gets a hold of one to left field. Back goes Carroll to the warning track right at the wall. It's out of here. Lucas Duda taking Steven Strasburg the other way. And the Mets have a 1-0 lead. Duda's second home run of the spring. this guy will hit him to every field.
Well, he was beat on a pitch. He got the call, but he didn't moan about it. He got ready for that next pitch, and Strasburg threw him a fastball up and away. And we've seen this with Duda. He has tremendous power to left field.
Turner chops one out to short. Nice easy hop for Desmond. And that retires the side, but not before Lucas Duda gives the Mets the lead as he goes deep against Strasburg. Duda hit. Home run. G and takes a changeup for a strike. And Keel hit the broken bat fly ball to center field, on which we believe Andres Torres hurt his calf. That was the second out in the second inning, and then Torres caught the third out on a line drive and took a kind of an awkward step coming off the field, and then came out of the game. Up the middle and a base hit for Keel, and for the second straight inning, the Nats have the leadoff man on.
You know, let's not forget either that earlier in this camp, Andres went through a small stretch where he had a gluteal problem and was, shut down for a couple of days. And that sometimes can, these things all compound. Everything's attached.
Here's Brett Carroll. And Nankiel comes out of the game. Pinch runner in for the Nationals. That's Corey Brown. First pitch strike to Carroll, who hit that line drive to center field his first time up. What I was going to say is, it's one of the concerns I think you have going into the season when you have an older center fielder. And 34 is not all that old in baseball age, but in center field age, it's a little bit older.
Well, not only, he doesn't really have to worry that much about left field. Jason Bay plays a tremendous left field and covers a lot of ground. But, he's got to be aware of, right field with Lucas just learning the position to cover as much ground as he can.
I think you look around baseball, and I think the 34, 35-year-old everyday center fielder is an anomaly.
Yes. I think the only guy that the last few seasons has come into his own, and don't forget, he spent a lot of time not playing in his 20s, was Marlon Byrd of the Chicago Cubs. But he didn't have a lot of wear and tear on his legs because he didn't, he's more of a platoon player in his day.
But you think about a guy like Torrey Hunter, who moved from center field at 34, 35 years old.
Mike Cameron, who's retired now, had to start moving around.
Carlos Beltran.
There you go.
Although, the jury's still out as to whether Carlos could go back and play center field after his knee issue, but, he had to move over.
And he also played a lot of his games on AstroTurf early in his career, and that certainly had to be a problem.
2-1 to Carroll. Double play ball to Tejada. Now Murphy makes the turn. And they get two. A couple of routine double plays. And the middle infielders have handled them with aplomb. 2 out and nobody on.
Well, this is the best part of this game for the Mets, is that they've had 2 double plays now. One started by Murphy, and now this one, of course, started by Tejada. Beautiful, athletic turn by Murphy with a little twist and jump, even though he didn't need to.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Roger Bernardino, who broke his bat and grounded one back to G his first time up, and he takes a big swing and hits one out to center. Lowen got turned around, but he finds it and that retires the side. So G, after the leadoff hit, gets the double play, and halfway through it's 1-0 Mets. Chris Carlin and Adam Shine will have an in-depth look at this week's Sweet 16 matchups, plus live reports on the Mets and Yanks straight from camp on Loudmouths, presented by Caesars Atlantic City, every weekday at 6, only on SNY. Some of the crowd here at Digital Domain Park. That's a digital camera. Just keeping the theme, you know.
Oh, those are the young men that from Jersey that have a high school baseball team here hanging out.
Corey Brown takes over in center field for Rick Ankiel. Steven Strasburg begins his 5th inning of work and throws a strike to Josh Tolle, who broke his bat, and Strasburg was deft at avoiding the barrel of the bat and throwing Tolle out his first time up. Mets have had just 2 hits off Strasburg, but both have been extra base hits, a ground ball double by Tejada and an opposite field home run by Duda. Strasburg up to 72 pitches. This should be his final inning as the Nats get the bullpen cranking. Tolle takes the breaking ball low and in, 2-1.
I think he called that a strike there. Good breaking ball right off the dish. Let's see if. Yeah, he did. He raised it late. That right on.
It's spring training.
Oh, here's the
it was to the right side, and a big hop for Espinosa, and that's the first out. Well, as we mentioned during the opening today, yesterday was a big day for Mets ownership with the settlement struck with the trustee for the Madoff bankruptcy situation, and also the limited partnership shares being sold and debts being paid off. And Sandy Alderson addressed it earlier today, and certainly looks forward to having the cloud taken away from the organization.
Well, I think from a just an overall organizational standpoint, the landscape today is a lot brighter than it was 2 or 3 days ago going into a potential 3-week trial. Obviously, we're very happy for Fred and Saul, and putting something behind us that has been an overhang for the franchise for well over a year, just about from the time I arrived, I think is a real plus.
And, you know, Sandy was asked a whole bunch of questions after that about how this would affect the Mets going forward, how it would have affected the Mets this past offseason if that, you know, uncertainty had been hanging over their heads. And, you know, those are tough questions to answer. I mean, you know, he was asked directly if this had happened 3 months ago, would you have been more active in the free agent market? And he said, it's hard to answer that. You know, you can't know that at this point. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of the financial uncertainty being put behind them allows the Mets to be more flexible.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, it's almost impossible to answer that. But I think with, you know, when I think of fans and when they think of whatever situation has been going on the past year, I have to believe that the scenario with Reyes would have been a little different. I think there would have been, you know, maybe some exchanging of something to get the ball rolling. You know, no one wants to negotiate against yourself, of course. That's always a tough thing to do.
At the same time, I think that, you know, Sandy has felt since he took the job, even absent the entire, you know, financial picture and the uncertainty there, that, you know, the Mets had a bloated payroll. They had unproductive players making lots of money, and that to be successful, you have to develop within your own farm system your core of talent, and then step outside for, you know, well-timed, well-structured deals as Tejada takes a call third strike and a nasty fastball by Strasburg.
Just Ruben overmatched here. Fastball inside, 98 miles an hour. He thinks it's in. That ball stayed true.
Strasburg up to 80 pitches on the evening. So, you know, I have no way of knowing, and we have no way of knowing if the payroll would have gone from 142 million to 90 million as it did this offseason. Yeah. But I think it was coming down anyway, with the number of bad contracts that were coming off the books.
I agree. A lot of dead weight there that had to go.
Dylan G sacrificed his first time up.
I think also, Gary, teams are just realizing that, you know, some teams have been able to go out and get lots of free agents, and it doesn't ensure, one, that you're going to be in the playoffs, and it doesn't ensure that you're going to win the World Series. The Cardinals won last year, and I thought on a Sunday afternoon in St. Louis, the Mets had taken any chance they had of being in the playoffs. And a month later, they were World Series champions.
Well, you know, I felt for a lot of years that there was going to be a turn in baseball where teams would absolutely shy away from the more than 4-year contracts. Yeah. But then, you know, Albert Pujols at age 32 gets a 10-year deal with the Angels. So, you know, there are certain teams that are going to be willing to spend money even when they know that a certain proportion of money they spend is going to go to waste.
And it's all backloaded, both the contract with Albert and C.J. Wilson. I think that, you know, I'm not smart enough to know all the ramifications that happen with these long-term contracts, but the ability to sell ad space and all those kind of things just supersede any rationale on knowing that a player is not going to be able to play from 40 to 43. Simple as that.
Well, as Sandy said today, you know, over the next 5 years, we might sign 25-year contracts or no 5-year contracts, but we're going to think long and hard before we sign any of them. Here's the 2-2, and G laces one to center field, but right at Corey Brown, and that retires the side. So a 1-2-3 inning for Steven Strasburg after 5, 1-0. Mets catcher Josh Tolley caught live BP wearing a GoPro camera attached to his equipment, providing us with an inside look from a major leaguer's point of view. To learn more about GoPro's products and how to capture your own sports memories, log on to GoPro.com. GoPro, the world's most versatile camera. Be a hero. GoPro.
That was a little bit like Paranormal Activity there.
Josh Son's camera tonight, catching Dylan G, who's looked very sharp. He's thrown 5 shutout innings, allowed 3 hits, just 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Blanco is the pinch hitter for Washington, and he takes a strike. Blanco batting for Steven Strasburg, who's done after 5 quality innings. Gave up just the home run to Lucas Duda, enough to have the Mets in front 1-0. Blanco, who played a little bit of Texas last year, now behind G 0-2.
Let's see what Dylan does here, 0-2. I would recommend that Dylan pops him inside to set up everything. Every 0-2 chance he gets, especially against a hitter who can't hurt him, pop him inside. And he tried. He tried, but the ball came back out over the plate. So what you can do as a young pitcher, if you have a catcher who can work with you, so you can say, hey, that accomplished nothing. It's 0-2. It didn't accomplish anything. We were trying to go inside, and we didn't do anything. We can do it again. This time, really get it inside.
Let's see what Dylan did last year after getting ahead 0-2. And he almost clipped him. Ball and 2 strikes. I know from a pitcher standpoint, when you get a 0-2, you think that the batting average against you should be 0.
Yeah. Yeah, like the guy's out. It's only going to be a matter of time, but you have to set it up. And now he's set it up that he can go out of the strike zone. He can bury a changeup in the dirt. He can backdoor that curveball. He's also got that fastball up that we saw early in his career that he hasn't used as much. So he's got many ways to get Blanco out because he is aware of inside.
Holding moves away. And the changeup fouled off.
And the reason he didn't get him out because it just wasn't a good changeup. That happens.
70 pitches now for G. Working in the 6th inning. Frank Francisco getting ready in the Mets bullpen. You see that splitter grip. It's a huge pitch for him. On the inside corner, and that's all for Blanco. 1 out of the 6th. 4th strikeout for Dylan G. 3 of the 4 have been on call 3rd strike.
That's the most impressive sequence all night. Came back inside, let that ball drift over. After Blanco had caught one at his knees, kind of startled him. That one he tried to get out of the way. Strike 3.
So 1 out. Here's Lombardozzi, who is flying to right and runs it into a double play. Takes the first pitch curveball outside. Well, the Mets will begin the season with a long stretch of games against their own division. They open at home against Atlanta on April 5th, and then Washington comes to town. Davis handles the ground ball, and there are 2 out, and then they go to Philadelphia and Atlanta. And well, the Phillies, we knew they were going to be an older team coming into the season, but what's going on now?
Well, they have a first baseman who ended last season for the Phillies. See all the infielders coming in to talk to Dylan G. Must be that they're going to bring Francisco in. Yeah, Terry's out. Pitch count.
So G is done. Almost got tripped coming off the mound. Francisco coming in.
A true leader stays
with 2 out and nobody on to face Ian Desmond, and he misses high with a fastball for ball 1.
Those are his numbers from last year with Toronto. It's been a tough stretch so far early here in spring training for Frank.
Francisco relies on fastball, splitter, and a slow curve, which looks surprising coming out of his hand because he's just such a big guy. And there's the fastball foul back. And an interesting move here by Terry to bring Francisco in. Nobody up in the bullpen getting ready for the next inning, so it tells you he wants to see him pitch, sit down, and come back next inning.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw him was that this wasn't about getting G out. He's thrown great. But seeing how Francisco matches up against Desmond, and then you brought up the ability to go out there hot, sit for a half inning, and then go back there and pitch another third. Terry wants to see if he can use him in that way during the season.
Yeah, he wants to know that if he needs him to come in with 1 or 2 on the 8th inning and still be available to pitch his best in a save situation, whether he's the kind of guy who can do that. And you don't quite have midseason conditions because the Nats don't have their full lineup here. But he comes in to face Desmond and then the heart of the batting order in the next inning.
You know, when you're a manager who has not had the player from last year, as you see that fastball drift over the inside corner, this is the only place to find out.
Run a 3-2 on Desmond, who had an infield hit his last time up. Throwing a lot of gas here today. 92 miles an hour. That's about where he's topped out this spring. That's his first batter face from last year. What you like is only 3 walks.
Yeah.
51 first batter's face.
275 though is not the number you want. The 5 home runs is not what you want, because you want your, you know, you're in a lot of situations as a closer. That first batter in the 9th inning is the most important batter.
Francisco had the closer's job, lost it, went through some physical issues last year as well. The Mets are hoping he can be the answer in the 9th inning, and he is just coming in and throwing all fastballs. I don't think we've seen this in any outing for Frank this spring.
You know, it was interesting, Gary, and I don't know if it happened because I was going to talk to Terry today, but he was flying around. That's normal for Terry. But he had said that he had told Mike Pelfrey to throw harder in his last start. I'd never heard of someone telling a pitcher to do that, but maybe he's done this with Francisco. He's thrown a lot of split fingers, and maybe Francisco's come out here and has been told, hey, we want to see your velocity up. We want to see you throw some fastballs.
Well, it's certainly been noticeable that really from his first outing in an inter-squad game this year, Francisco was throwing his fastball, 86 to 89 miles an hour. And that's not his game.
No, that's not going to cut it.
But he's throwing 92, 93 tonight. And there's the first splitter, but he misses high with it, and he walks Desmond. So after throwing 8 straight fastballs, Francisco threw that splitter and missed with it. So a 2-out base runner, now Danny Espinosa. Ryan Matthews up in the bullpen, or is that?
It's Drew Storen.
Yeah, it's Drew Storen, yep.
It'd be interesting if how Francisco holds a runner on. 2 outs, 1-0 lead for the Mets. Good runner on first and Desmond. Will he try to take a base?
Fastball by Espinosa, first pitch. Well, the word on Francisco is that he will not throw to first base, and that's a problem.
Well, he won't throw. It's not only first base. I think this is known around there with all the scouts and stuff. He is not a fan of the throwing to the bases. He's a fan of throwing to the plate. He does that well over 90 miles an hour. But the defensive part of the game is not his favorite. And that's going to be tested, I would think, in the National League. It's not only base stealers. It's bunting. Yeah. It's the kind of stuff that is played in the National League that they do not play in the American League, or not as much.
By the way, that was Ryan Matthews in the ball.
It wasn't. My mistake.
Looking Storen-esque. Line to center field and a base hit for Espinosa. So he got 0-2 fastball up, and Espinosa takes it right up the middle. So Francisco brought in with 2 out and nobody on, has given up a walk and a single, and now the Nats have 2 men on.
Well, he's got a nice swing. He's got lots of power. And if he ever gets to the point where he strikes out less, both he and Desmond, they'll have a real find there in Washington.
So with the Mets leading 1-0 in the sixth, the Nats have 2 out and 2 on, and here's Mark DeRosa. DeRosa 0 for 2. He flied to center, took a call third strike against Dylan G, who was terrific for his 5 2/3 innings. No runs, 3 hits, a walk, 4 strikeouts. There's a splitter for a strike. Desmond at second, Espinosa at first with 2 down. That one misses low. By the way, we were talking about the Phillies right before we went to break.
That's right.
Howard out till June. Utley probably going to miss opening day. Polanco's got a bad finger. That's 3/4 of their infield.
You know,
any news on Rollins?
I know, in the beginning of a 3-year deal, right?
Chopper, Murphy behind the bag, tough hop, and he makes the flip, but not in time. Throw to third, and getting back in safely is Desmond. Now Murphy did all he could as that ball came up. Just couldn't get it to Tejada in time for the force.
But Gary, these are the little plays that Murph will find out. Now, it took a bad hop, so he got a little anxious here and wanted to get rid of it like a hot potato. Who was running? The right-handed hitter Mark DeRosa. Even that ball took a big hop. If you don't have a play there, you can still try to get the man at first base. I don't know if he could have or not. I wasn't watching DeRosa run, but at this stage in his career, certainly is not a barn burner down that first base line.
So it's an infield hit for DeRosa. Bases loaded with 2 down. And now Wilson Ramos, who twice has grounded out to Turner at third base. First pitch splitter misses for ball 1.
But just a bad break from Murph there. It took a bad hop, and I think what happens when you're learning that position, when it takes a bad hop like that, Gary, it just makes you anxious. You know, what am I going to do with it now? It took the hop. I want to just catch it. As soon as you catch it, you get it to second base, and he was safe. I think he would have had time to throw him out at first, although he's a long way away.
Well, it's that pre-pitch checklist that you go through in your brain.
It's a checklist, and it's also the inner clock that the great infielders have. They just kind of know where to go. Now, DeRosa coming out of the box. Okay, let's see. Has barely gotten out. Bad hop. Murphy's got it with a stop, and he fired at first base. I think you absolutely get the veteran DeRosa at first.
But as he's moving to his right before that ball takes a bad hop, it's almost like he's already decided in his mind, I've got time to field this and get the force at second base.
Exactly, but as soon as it takes the bad hop, the second baseman, like a Alomar in his prime, what he would think of is that, boy, he took the bad hop, that takes second base away. Now DeRosa's running. He's still got pretty good speed despite the injuries.
Now Francisco trying to get out of the mess. Ahead 1-2. And Ramos fouls it back.
I think what we take out of that also we're missing is the hustle by Espinosa to get there to make that play tough.
And from what we've seen of Danny Espinosa, it's going to happen every time.
Yeah, there's only one way to play.
Again, the 1-2 toward the hole. Tejada on the backhand. He'll go to first base with it, and he gets Ramos to end the inning. So Francisco puts himself in jeopardy, gives him a walk and 2 hits, but gets out of the jam to keep it 1-0. The infield for the Nats, Chad Tracy is in to play first base. Josh Johnson, no, not that Josh Johnson, playing second. Andres Blanco takes over at shortstop. And Stephen King, no, not that Stephen King, is playing third. That would be scary, wouldn't it?
Well, both the second baseman and the shortstop are wearing the number 13, so of course the third baseman is Stephen King.
Sounds a little unlucky to me. Adam Lowen leads off against the new pitcher Ryan Mathis, and joining us from the Mets dugout is Dylan G. A tremendous performance today, Dylan. How'd you feel?
Thank you. I felt pretty good. To be honest, I was a little sharper the other day in Detroit, playing Detroit, but obviously I'm happy with the results tonight.
You threw a lot of curveballs early in the game. Was that by design?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about that for a while. I got to get the curveball going, even if it's just something to show them. I mean, I threw a lot of curveballs tonight. I think one strike. So, even though they weren't throwing for a strike, I mean, it's just something else just to get them to look at.
Well, I will tell you, watching tonight, you're not giving yourself enough credit. That curveball was outstanding. I thought one of your great sequence of pitching was the first hitter you faced in the last inning, Blanco. Is that you missed with that 0-2 fastball in, which didn't accomplish anything. You came back in, almost clipped him on the knee, which is fine. Made him move. You missed with a changeup away, and then came back with that fastball that ran over the corner inside. That was that'll be a real weapon for you against left-handed hitters.
Thank you. Yeah, that was I'm actually really, like you said, that at bat was great. We were having trouble early in the night getting the ball into those lefties, and I got lucky early on, and at least that last at bat we made an adjustment of getting in there.
Nice effort by Brett Carroll, but he can't get there. Is pitching inside in general one of your focuses this spring, Dylan?
It is. I mean, I've talked to Johan a little bit about it, and he said you got to establish an inside corner. I mean, especially guys like us. I mean, we're not going to go out there and throw like Strasburg 96. So we got to go up there and establish that inside corner so we get the pitch on the outside, get them turning a little bit, and then it helps everybody. It helps the bullpen when they come in if they know that we like to pitch inside.
Your poise, we've always talked about it here from day one when he came up to the major leagues. As Lauren goes down on a called third strike. Are you also trying to, in certain situations, you've got a couple of double plays which are going to be huge for you this year. I don't know, were you trying to sink that fastball or just run it away? No, yeah, I'm trying to sink them. I felt like my sinker was pretty good tonight. That's one good thing I noticed was get a lot of ground balls tonight. But yeah, and that's what I've been working on too. Is I felt like last year the game spit up on me a little bit when I got in the stretch a couple times, and that's something I'm trying to focus on here. Is stay in control. It's still my game. It's still my pace, and just pitch, make the pitches.
Dylan, we talk all the time in baseball about it being a game of failure, and it can get in your head sometimes. When you have a season like you had last year, where you got off to such a great start, and then you finished more uneven, what did you learn from the second half of that year that can get you back to where you were the first half?
Well, like I said, it's part of that. Part of the game, got a little quick on me that second half, especially when I start second guessing everything, and then all of a sudden you can't do that here. Obviously, with this kind of talent that you're facing, and they'll jump on you in a hurry. So that was one thing that I look back on is stay in control. Every day you're out there, every pitch. Just stay in control at your pace when you have the ball. So you can't let it snowball on you like that. And I thought that was a big thing that happened to me last year in the second half.
Well, in the movie theater last night, I took my son to see 21 Jump Street. The only one laughing louder in there was you. So if you need a big start during the season, are you going to go back to a video of 21 Jump Street?
Yeah, I might have to go download that. That was surprisingly really funny. I didn't expect that. I heard it was going to be funny, but I thought it was going to be really, just slapstick. But it was slapstick, but it was actually pretty funny.
Before I let you go, I've got to ask about the beard. What was the idea? How long are you going to keep it? And most importantly, does your wife like it?
Yeah, astonishingly enough, she does like it. She doesn't mind it. She doesn't like the full beard, so we compromise with this. But I don't know how long it's got. I never even thought about it. I just started growing it just because I like to grow facial hair in the offseason and just carry it over to spring training. So we'll see.
Knowing the superstitious nature of most players, if you get off to a good start, it'll probably last longer.
Yeah, probably so. And then you get that first bad outing, come in clean shaven.
Dylan, by the way, when Murph's up, it's a good time to go in and do your stretching.
Yeah.
It can be a little dangerous. Hey, yeah. Dylan, thanks very much. Good outing today.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, that's Dylan G, brought to you by the Xerox Business of Baseball. Xerox, ready for real business. Just listening to Dylan talk, he is, it's grown up a lot in the last year.
He's grown up a lot. I think the travel to Taiwan with some of the stars from baseball makes you feel that, boy, you know what, maybe I want to be on this level with these guys and considered like these players. And I think even more importantly, he's always had that poise, and he's had a real plan here in spring training. You have a lot of guys in spring training that just come and hope everything works out. He's had a plan to make himself better, not only to make this ball club, Gary, but to be a pitcher that this team can rely on. And that's something to be proud of.
Well, you remember he didn't make the team out of spring training last year, and got called up early in the season and then went on that great role. And, you know, coming into this season, there wasn't competition for starting jobs on the Mets staff because they just don't have that 6th, 7th, and 8th guy who could compete for a job and push people. And you worry about that sometimes with young players, but you watch the way Dylan's conducted himself this spring, and it takes any of that worry away.
So it says a lot about he and Mr. Neese, who've pitched so well in spring training, on the work that they're putting in.
2-2 to Jason Bay, who's 0 for 2 on the day. Flied out and fouled out. Mets lead 1-0. A Lucas Duda home run off Steven Strasburg in the 4th inning, the only run. Ike Davis would be next. Ryan Mathis working in back of Strasburg, who went 5. A lot of run on 2 hits. And a full count to Bay.
By the way, to go back to 21 Jump Street, I was laughing about a third of the time as the rest of the crowd. So officially, I'm not only old, maybe ancient is coming.
Well, here's what I want to know. Does Paul D. Podesta get like royalties on every Jonah Hill movie now?
Yes, of
going
course.
Forward? All forward to Jason Bay.
Why not?
I'm sure, you know, Depot would be very happy if we could make that arrangement for him.
I think Jonah Hill's doing fine right now, Gary.
I know. That's why we need to get Paul a cut. That's 2 out. Bay at first, and here's Ike Davis against Mathis. Ryan Mathis, 27 years old, pitched 35 games in relief with the Nats last year, and then went down with a strained shoulder in August. But another good young arm in that Washington bullpen.
They got that with Craig Stammen. They've got Tyler Clippard. Of course, their closer, Drew Storm, but it seems like every guy that comes up. Rodriguez?
Yeah, we're going to see Rodriguez tonight. Guy throws 100 miles an hour. Ball and a strike to Ike.
I think Davies said in spring training at some point, and you know, it's out of context, so I don't know exactly what it meant, but he said, you know, this young talent on this Nationals team, he has not seen on any team that he's ever managed, and that's a strong statement.
Especially since he had the '84 Mets, as I recall. There's a good slider by Mathis, and it's 1-2.
Well, he's got a good arm, also has a good breaking pitch, and they've got these kids who have 2 outstanding pitches coming in relief that are going to torment the NL East.
That's what we were talking about before with Strasburg having his innings limit. You know, when this is your 6th inning guy, and that may be the case, there's ball 3, and Bay steals the base. So Jason taking off on a 1-2 count.
Well, that's a good count for Jason to steal. Why? Well, you know, it's probably going to be that good sharp breaking pitch, and if it gets Ike, it gets Ike, but if it doesn't, it's probably going to be a pitch in the dirt and a hard pitch for Ramos to throw.
So now Bay in scoring position with 2 out, and
Ike hits one toward the gap in left center. That's going to fall for a base hit. So the stolen base pays off as Bay comes in to score, and the Mets have a 2-0 lead.
This little 2-out scoring, this opportunistic kind of scoring by the Mets. You can see Bob Guerin, the coach, shaking his head in agreement. These are the little things that can just kill an opposing team. They have 2 outs. They have a guy meekly on first base. He steals second on the next pitch is a hit, and it breaks your back. Good secondary lead there by Jason Bay.
You know, when we were talking earlier in the game about the Mets as a stolen base team without the big base stealer in Reyes, and I think having Tom Goodwin as the base running coach is going to make a difference for this team, because you know, Goodwin was not just a fast guy, but a guy who knew how to steal bases during his career.
And I think his personality is a little different. You know, Mookie was there last year. Mookie's just a quieter individual, always has been. And I think Tom is more of a take charge kind of personality. And I think that the Mets could, in Tom Goodwin, have their Davey Lopez and what he did for the Philadelphia Phillies.
There's Tom Goodwin. Grew up a Giants fan. Drafted by the Dodgers.
What a bummer.
Hit the other way. That's a base hit for Duda. Davis to second, takes the turn, heads to third. Carroll will make the throw to third, and Ike slides in safely, and Duda down to second base. Well, you played Duda off the line, and that's exactly where he hit it, between King and the bag.
Well, this is 2 hits now to left field, the home run, and here, just taking that pitch up and away and stroking it down the left field line. And Lucas Duda, if they don't play him straight up, there's going to be a problem because he can go from coast to coast.
They got to give him a double, right?
Yeah. Why not?
Steve McCaddy, the pitching coach, out to talk to Mathis, who easily retired the first 2 hitters in the inning. But then a 2-out walk to Bay, who stole second, came home on a Ike Davis base hit. And now Duda with an 0-2 opposite field double.
Yeah, I was watching that play and Duda run. And by the time Carroll got to it, and, you know, we've seen a few players who can make that play. Jason Bay does it very well. I remember a player in my time, Kevin McReynolds, was pretty good going down the line, making the throw back behind him. But he didn't have a chance to do that second.
So Timo Perez make that play a few times.
But he had the spin.
And Chavez, too.
That's right. Maybe the best I've ever seen.
Those left-hand throwers going to the left field line, that's a hard play. But both those guys could make it. 1-0 to Justin Turner, who's 0 for 2. Line to first, grounded to short. I don't think the catch aside, I don't think there's anybody I've ever enjoyed watching play the outfield more than Andy Chavez.
I agree. I agree. You've been around here a long time, seen a lot of good outfielders. I guess a lot of bad ones too.
There's been a few of those, yeah. I could give you a long list. Where do you want me to start?
We don't do it here. We'll do it another time. I want to keep it a secret.
Well, yeah. I mean, you had your outfielders, and then you had your players moved from other positions to the outfield.
Mr. Hundley?
Mr. Hundley. Do you remember Hojo playing center? What's that after you left?
That was after I left, thank God.
Right at the right fielder, Bernardina, and that retires the side. Made Hojo a Gold Glove third baseman. 2-0 New York. Changes for the Mets as we go to the 7th inning. Ronnie Cedeno comes in to play shortstop. Vinny Rotino now playing left field. You never know where you're going to find Vinny on the field.
And Frank Francisco, who came on in the 6th, stays on for the 7th. First pitch popped up by Brown in foul ground, and Justin Turner puts it away. 1 pitch and 1 out. Thursday at 1 p.m., the Mets host the Astros in Port St. Lucie as they continue their spring training schedule here at Digital Domain Park. Mets Astros presented by Citi. Thursday at 1 p.m. only on SNY. Some of the folks sitting out on the berm on a gorgeous night. Temperature in the mid-70s. Just a perfect night to sit out on the berm and watch the game. No threat of sunburn.
I think it's great with this new configuration that you can walk out to the berm from any of the seats.
There's Brett Carroll. He takes a strike. Yeah, it used to be you had to leave the stadium and take your special berm ticket. But now you can go under the stands and walk right around.
Kind of the thought process with all the ballparks, whether they're minor leagues or major leagues, the ability to walk around the whole field, isn't it?
The one thing that was lacking at Shea Stadium is that, you know, when you went under the stands for your hot dog, you couldn't see what was going on in the field.
That means you had to stay in your seat. What a concept.
No. Or wait for the vendor to come on.
That's right. I'm more of a vendor guy.
I think it's getting toward her bedtime. There's 2-1. Carroll takes a strike.
See, if we were doing a text poll, we'd see if everyone felt like you and I felt that these 6-10 games are just nicely done. Good little sinking fastball there.
Yeah, you can do it in Florida. I'm not sure you can do it on a weekday in New York. It might be a little tough for folks to make first pitch. But, you know, I remember the day when night games at Shea Stadium started at 8.
Oh, yes.
Of course, they were playing 2-hour and 15-minute games then.
In my day, it was 8:05 every Friday night, and then Monday Night Baseball, when that started, all those games were 8 o'clock. With Howard Cosell and Jim Palmer.
Well, for years it was 2 o'clock day games, 8 o'clock night games. Swing and a miss, and Francisco has his first strikeout. 2 out, left-hand hitter coming up. Chuck James is getting ready in the bullpen. And so it looks like Francisco's work is done. So Terry Collins on his way out to the mound, and he'll bring James in. 2-0 Mets in the 7th. Chuck James on to pitch for the Mets. James, one of the lefties, hoping for a job if Tim Burdock can't answer the bell on opening day. He's had a rough spring so far. The former Brave facing the veteran right-hand hitter Jason Michaels, pitch hitting for the Nats. Michaels has spent the last 3 years in Houston, now 35 years old. Pat Burrell's old running mate with the Phillies. They went to Miami together.
They did. That's right.
Hard to believe that Burrell is retired now. Stuck on 42 home runs against the Mets, 6 behind Chipper Jones, and 18 behind Willie Stargell for the all-time lead. In the air to left field, got it off the end of the bat, and Vinny Rottino drifts back and makes the catch to end the inning. So James gets his batter's 7th inning stretch, 2-0 New York.
To Citi Field with a Mets Power Pack, your $22 ticket.
Get a one-of-a-kind look at Mets spring training with the latest news from Port St. Lucie. Insider info, exclusive interviews, and behind-the-scenes video on Mets blog presented by Verizon, featured on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. New catcher for the Nationals is Carlos Maldonado, not Candy. Jason Michaels stays in the game in left field. Brett Carroll moves from left field to right field. And the new pitcher for the Nats is the fireballing right-hander, Henry Rodriguez.
Well, Henry Rodriguez is a guy who's been known to throw 100 miles an hour. You see his numbers from last season. Only problems, all of those numbers. 1 home run in 65 and 2/3 inning are the walks, 45.
Did you hear who Davey Johnson compared Henry Rodriguez to this week?
No.
He compared him to your old teammate, Doug Sisk. What? He was saying that, you know, when he first got Sisk, he couldn't throw strikes, and that he molded him into, or helped mold him into, a pitcher who could be useful because he'd get the ball to the plate. And he's hoping to do the same with Henry Rodriguez. Now, I don't think that Dougie Sisk ever threw 100 miles an hour. Picked up on the short hop by King, and he throws out totally one away.
You know how sometimes in life, if you believe something long enough, it becomes true? This is that's a theory. There's another theory to think about with Dougie Sisk, one of my dear friends. Dougie never threw strikes, ever. What happened, though, people swung at the pitch his first 2 seasons, and then after that they stopped swinging. That was the whole difference. So I'll have a talk with the skipper later.
Here's Ronnie Cedeno up for the first time.
But he and I don't always agree, Gary. I don't know if you knew that.
Is that a new thing?
No, that's been running for a long time.
It's that much more entertaining that way.
Of course.
Rob Johnson is out on deck to pinch hit for the Mets. And Rodriguez having trouble throwing it anywhere near the strike zone on the first 2 pitches to Cedeno. Well, he led the league in average velocity, which, you know, that and $2 to get you on the subway.
By the way, everyone on that list had a tough year last year. Maybe not Walden.
When we saw Walden, he was a world beater.
But he struggled at the end. Struggled at the end.
Wasn't as good against everybody else. And of that group, only Daniel Bard is going to try and be a starter this year.
Daniel Bard, Neftali Feliz. It's going to be very interesting to see if they can make that jump. Because the other way around is pretty easy, right? From being a starter to going to be a reliever. It's easier. I shouldn't say it's easy. It's easier.
It's easier if you're Eckersley or Smoltz.
Yeah, right. Right.
Cedeno taking all the way, and it's 3-1.
Well, he has that real stiff front side. And see that big turn with his hips? Makes it a little difficult to always land in the same spot, but it's probably the catch-22. That's why he throws so hard.
And he gets Cedeno with a big swing, and it's 3-2. It's different, you know, as you look at Cedeno swinging at that last fastball. Is it different when you have a situation like with an Adam Wainwright where he comes to the big leagues, they start him out as a reliever, but they know all along he's going to be a starting pitcher, as opposed to a guy like a Feliz or Bard who've been pitching in relief in the big leagues for a few years as Cedeno draws along?
Oh, I think it's so much more difficult. And I think the big thing about it that makes it difficult is that, you know, Adam Wainwright came up and knew he was going to be a starter at some point and was needed. There's a long history of this. If you go back to the 70s, maybe even the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Los Angeles Dodgers, they always did that with their best pitchers. They would start them in the bullpen and then move them out after they had or gotten a few innings under their belt out there in some not so pressure situations and some pressure situations.
Except for that little guy who they thought couldn't start. Remember that guy, Martinez?
That's right. You know, Earl Hershiser, his rookie year, where I think he finished, he had the finish in the top 5 of the rookie of the year voting. He started in the bullpen and then just emerged as a starter for them, and then of course was a world beater for years and years for the Dodgers. Dave Stewart started in the bullpen. I mean, he can go on.
Adam Lowenwitz on deck. But the bottom line with Henry Rodriguez is it doesn't matter how hard he throws. If he's going to walk 7 batters every 9 innings, it's hard to put any faith in him in the late innings. There's a slider for a strike.
I mean, he has major league hitters kind of bailing, and that's something you just do not see. That tells you how good his stuff is. This right here, you do not see by a major league hitter.
Johnson, one of the candidates for backup catcher, although the way Mike Nickias has been hitting the ball this spring, that appears to be locked up. Now the 1-2. Double play ball. Johnson to his fellow 13 Blanco, and they turn it over 4-6-3 to end the inning. Good luck there for the middle infielders for the Nats. A pair of 13. We go to the 8th inning in Port St. Lucie. Mets with a 2-0 lead. Rob Johnson, who pinch hits, stays in behind the plate. Josh Satin now at first base. Omar Quintanilla takes over at second. Mike Baxter is now playing right field. And John Roush is on to pitch for the Mets. And his first pitch is up high to Blanco, 1-0.
Roush has been out of sorts so far this spring training. Just hasn't really found his form. And I think when you're 6'11", a lot more moving parts, a lot longer parts. I think sometimes it takes a while to find your niche. He hasn't found it yet.
Change up by Roush. And I wonder, here's a guy who's a relief pitcher who throws 4 different pitches, and I wonder whether that has something to do with it as well.
I agree. I think pitches come with time. He's lucky that he's in a position that, obviously is going to be a big part of the staff, so you can take all of the month of March to make sure that you get things straight.
You wonder for a guy who pitches an inning at a time, and he'll sink it, he'll cut it, he'll throw a big curveball, throw a changeup. Does an 8th inning guy need that many pitches?
I think he does, Gary, only because as Satin makes his play on the ball down the line, nice play by Josh. I think he needs that because even though he's 6'11", and even though he has the angle, he very rarely throws 91, 92. He's more of an 89, 90 guy. So, yeah, I think he does need all those pitches and to be effective.
So 1 out and nobody on. Chad Tracy will bat for the first time. Tracy, who had his best years with the Arizona Diamondbacks, trying to fight for a job on this Nats team, and every day Mike Morse and Adam LaRoche miss more time, the more it works in favor of a guy like Tracy as Danny Herrera gets up in the Mets bullpen. There's that slow curve from Roush. You don't expect a guy that size to throw a 72-mile-an-hour curve.
I figure it's just going to be a hard fastball and slider, or see a lot of moving parts. That high leg kick, and then finally with the follow through. Roush was on that gold medal team, I believe, that Tommy Lasorda coached. Was it in Australia, Sydney? Or?
Yeah, Sydney in 2011.
He was on that. He was on that team
and pitched brilliantly. He was a starter then. Shallow right field. Quintanilla is under, and that's the second out. Well, if you were not with us earlier in the second inning, Mets center fielder Andres Torres caught a couple of fly balls, and on the second one, Brett Carroll lined to him in center, came off the field, and you see right there kind of a bad step. They've diagnosed a left calf strain, and so Torres came out of the game at that point. And Adam Lowen took over in center field. With 16 days to go till opening day, you certainly hope that that's not going to be a problem that Torres has to deal with for more than a day or two.
Well, the only thing you can hope for, now we've heard it's a strain. The only thing that would be good news, Gary, is that if the strain resulted from a little bit of maybe a cramp, it's not cold here by any means, but it's cooler than they've been working out in when it's 80, 85 degrees. So
yeah, that's going to be how it feels tomorrow morning. Yeah. That's going to have the biggest impact on whether Torres is going to have to miss any time. But that's a huge concern. If Torres can't go for any reason, the Mets are going to have to really rethink things. Maldonado pulls one down the line and just fouled. I mean, I would think, and I don't know for sure, but if Andres Torres is not able to go for a significant period of time at the beginning of the season, you've got to think about bringing Kirk Neuenhuis back to play center.
I agree. And whether you like it or not, just starting him out there and letting him play the first month, because whatever it is.
Because really the only other option is to play Jason Bay in center field. I don't think they want to do that.
Jason Bay, or you're looking on that waiver wire as guys are starting to be let go, and maybe you can find a guy there that could play the position for you.
And obviously we're getting way ahead of ourselves, and hopefully Torres will be ready to play in a day or two. But we're not only talking about the beginning of the year, but if at any point of the season Andres Torres goes down for a significant period of time, you just don't have that other answer. I mean, I guess they could, if Scott Hairston's healthy, and that's still a big if, you could run him out there for a couple of weeks.
3-2 curveball in for a call, strike 3. Nicely done by Roush to get Maldonado. 1-2-3 inning for Roush. So Big John Roush pitches a successful inning, and we head for the bottom of the 8th with the Mets still up 2-0. Craig Stammen comes on to pitch for the Nationals as we go to the bottom of the 8th. The 4th Washington pitcher of the night. Adam Lowen up for the 3rd time. Struck out each of his first 2 at-bats. After coming on for the injured Andres Torres, Lowen takes ball 1.
Another guy who's going to come in, be a tough right-hander, throws a sinking fastball, throws extremely hard.
Down to first base, and Chad Tracy makes the play. 1 away. Jonas Schwartz and Joe Beningo will break down this week's Sweet 16 matchups, plus bring you exclusive Mets player and coach interviews straight from Port St. Lucie on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, part of the New York Sports Local, weekdays at 5 on SNY. Omar Quintanilla will bat for the first time. Quintanilla trying to make his 3rd big league stop this year, parts of 5 years with the Rockies. A few at-bats last year with the Rangers. Signing with the Mets as a minor league free agent. Most likely to man the middle infield in Buffalo. Speaking of Buffalo, Matt Harvey pitched for the Mets AAA team today. Went 6, allowed 3 runs.
I think that we're going to have not a watch, but we'll definitely be paying attention when Familia, Mr. Harvey, and of course Zach Wheeler do their job every 5th day.
Yeah, there was unprecedented coverage when Wheeler made his first start on one of the back fields the other day. He's an impressive looking kid.
I know, I was there that day, and there were a lot of people drooling by the time he was done.
I mean, clearly inconsistent at this point.
It's like everyone that age, and but he's got the body, he's got the arm, and seems to have the makeup. Let's hope he stays healthy, and that is the key. As Quintanilla strikes out there, is that the Mets are starting to get these arms. They're starting to get guys that can throw the ball, but how much do they progress? That is the key to any organization. I know that's a priority with the front office staff.
And that's why you have to stockpile pitchers, because you never know what percentage of them are going to work out. The Mets have these 3 stud guys right now, much as they had in the mid-90s when they had Generation K with Isringhausen and Pulsifer and Wilson. And you know, you can't expect that they're all going to be frontline starting pitchers in the major leagues. Now, they might, and that would be fantastic if they do, but pitching being as capricious as it is, that's why you've got to have 5 guys, 7 guys, 9 guys in your organization who you say, hey, they could be stud pitching. And the Mets are working toward that end. That's why you make trades like they did last summer with Beltran for Wheeler. That's why you pay as much attention to the draft and put as much money into player development as they do. And it's been a real focus of this organization, refocus, I would say, particularly since this regime took over.
Yeah, and if you don't have it in your system, you go out and get it. You know, the days of, you know, Gooden was in your system, but you needed a left hand. You went for Fernandez. Got David Cone in a huge trade. What a part he played in Mets. Here's the prospects now with Familia and Harvey and Mejia, who's coming off that injury, and Zach Wheeler, who we just talked about.
And you don't know whether, I mean, there's been talk about Jairus Familia becoming a relief pitcher. We've seen Henry Mejia already in the big leagues as a relief pitcher.
I like Familia as a relief pitcher personally. He's got 2 unhittable pitches at times. You know, we always talk about, only because I played at that time, so I hope I'm not boring you at home, but you always talk about those 80s pitchers, you know, Gooden, etc. But you don't talk about the David Wests, the Rick Aguilaras, the Randy Myers. Those guys were all starting pitchers, too, in their day. And they were moved around at different positions because they weren't as good as the guys starting.
Well, let's use David West to help get Frank Viola.
There you go.
In the trade. So sometimes it goes the other way. If you can stockpile enough young pitching, you can use it to get veteran pieces.
Rick Omby. He played a nice part, didn't he?
Sure did. Went on the Keith Hernandez trade. Floyd Yeomans.
Yep.
Went on the Gary Carter trade.
Right. There used to be a time here, well, in St. Petersburg and over here, where there'd be 7 pitchers on the mound for the Mets. And if you liked pitching, it was quite a show to watch these guys do their job at such an early age.
3-2 to Vinny Rotino with 2 out and nobody on. And Vinny smacks one down to first. Tracy takes it himself, and so Stammen comes in for a 1-2-3 inning. And we head for the 9th at Port St. Lucie with the Mets leading 2-0. Ninth inning in Port St. Lucie. Starting tonight at 10:30, get continued coverage of tonight's Mets Nationals Grapefruit League matchup, plus interviews, highlights, and recaps of everything New York sports. Geico Sports Night tonight at 10:30 only on SNY. Stephen King leads off the 9th inning for Washington. And Bobby Parnell trying to close it out for New York.
See Bobby's numbers from last season in an up and down year for Bobby. But spring training's been different. He had a tough inter-squad game, and ever since then, when the real game started, he's been one of the best out of the pen for the Mets. He of the knuckle curve learned from Mr. Isringhausen last season.
Well, it served him well the last month of the season when he started to unveil it, and he's refined that pitch a little bit this spring. We all know the kind of arm that Bobby has.
You never know what events will transpire to turn a pitcher around. Can you imagine the second time around one season with Isringhausen might have changed Parnell's career around.
Ahead on King 1-2. And he gets him looking at the fastball. So King is down. 1 out of the 9th. Dylan G started this game for the Mets, went 5 2/3, no runs, 3 hits.
A little two-seamer there, nicely framed by Mr. Johnson behind the plate.
Frank Francisco turned in a scoreless inning. Chuck James retired the only batter he faced. John Roush pitched the 1-2 3/8, and now Parnell trying to close it out as Josh Johnson steps in. Is the world just running out of names, or does it seem like there are more guys playing now who have the names of other players?
Maybe they are. The names now are certainly not the names when I was, my 2 children are Tyler and Jordan. Those are very popular names nowadays. Never knew anyone Tyler and Jordan when I was a kid.
Check swing, and Johnson held it up. It's 3-0. Well, I know that the Josh Johnson standing in the batter's box would love to get a chance to face the real Josh Johnson sometime in a big league game.
That's right.
And I know that the Miami Marlins would love to keep Josh Johnson on the mound for a full season.
It would be interesting to see him be a Bulldog all season long. See what kind of numbers he could put up, because he's among the elite when he's capable.
Little tapper. Parnell will have to hurry. And he got him. Going into the runner, Josh Satin got that arm in and out in a hurry. And they're 2 out.
They'll try this 95 miles an hour, Josh Satin. The ball took a little funny bounce there. Almost eluded Parnell, but threw it right down the line. And that's one thing where the first baseman never looks at that ball. He puts his glove where he thinks it's going to go, closes his eyes, and occasionally goes in.
That's how Albert Pujols got hurt last year in a play like that. Then we saw Cliff Floyd suffer a horrific injury at Shea Stadium when he was playing for the Expos on a ball like that. And the runner runs into that extended left arm. That can be a horrible situation. But Satin got the arm out of the way. So now 2 out. And David Freitas is the pinch hitter, and he takes a strike.
Again with the left-handed first baseman. Keith in the day, that play was real easy, Gary. You could throw it almost 3-4 feet on the inside of the runner.
Well, he would give you that target well inside the line because he could extend.
He wouldn't even stand on the bag. He would stand off the bag and then go to the bag at the last minute. But as a right-hander, there's really nothing you can do. You can just hope. See, his head's not even on it. He just put his glove out there, and it hit the glove.
Parnell's 1-1. Freitas takes it high, and it's 2-1.
Boy, we've had some hard throwers in this game tonight, haven't we? Glove is not making the same sound tonight as it has in the past. One knuckle curve there from Parnell. That's a pitch that certainly would not see in the past. That's new confidence in that pitch.
Question is, will you see it during the regular season? 3-2 now.
He's going to have to, because the history is out, is that for whatever reason, hitters see the ball coming out of his hand. And if they do that, he's going to have to come up with another pitch. And that knuckle curve is going to be a pitch he's going to have to use often.
Now the Nats down to their last strike. And Parnell's 3-2. Freitas takes a call, strike 3, and that'll do it. So Bobby Parnell with an impressive 1-2-3 ninth inning with a couple of strikeouts to close it out as the Mets sent 5 pitchers to the mound and combined for a 5-hit shutout. Dylan G terrific. Lucas Duda with a home run, and for the first time in 10 days the Mets get to shake hands on the field.
Well, obviously in a shutout all the pitchers were fantastic, but more impressed with Dylan G than most of the pitchers. You have to be happy for Francisco and Roush. They've had a tough spring training. They had a nice outing, and as far as the offense is concerned, you talked about it. Duda might have a lot of bats against Strasburg. Well, home run tonight and another base hit.
Well, yesterday was a great day for the Mets off the field. Today, they get themselves a win on the field. It's final 2 weeks before opening day, and the Mets have a win tonight. We're back.